Mine is a little bit different than his, but it's very easy to make, and I think you'll enjoy it. Throw a 7-ounce can. Let me get rid of some of the oil here. Oh, there's a bucket back here. Cut it out. You know I'm sloppy, huh? Now, I didn't pour it on the floor. There's a bucket back here. I have 1 7-ounce can of tuna into a blender of some sort. You can use a food processor, but it'll go all over the place. You just don't need that much. And I want 8 flat anchovies. And these are salty, so be careful. You don't want to add too much. And 8 flat would, these aren't coming apart very well. 8 looks something like that. Remember he mentioned anchovy and tuna? You're blending 2 fish together to get what we want. Then we want 1/4 cup of fresh lemon juice. And for heaven's sakes, don't use something phony. That's about 1/4 cup right there. And we'll blend that now. And then we're going to pour in 3/4 cup of olive oil. Sometimes you have to pack this down. If you weren't watching, this would work right away. There we go. There it goes. Grind this up to a pulp, you see. There we are. Now we're going to pour in, while it's running, we're going to pour in 1/4 cup, or 3/4 cup of olive oil. And we're going to make a mayonnaise. A mayonnaise of this mess. Come on, you, start moving. There we go. If you get an air bubble in this, it simply will not cooperate. So we have to, there it goes. It's about time, huh? There it is. Now, very simple to make this, and what you have is a terribly rich dish. Literally a mayonnaise of tuna. A mayonnaise is simply an emulsion, an oil that's in an emulsion, you see. And this one will work beautifully now. Give me the recipe again. A 7-ounce can of tuna. Threw it in the container. We austerized it with 8 flat anchovies. We added 1/4 cup of lemon juice. And then after we blended that for a bit, we added 3/4 cup of olive oil. Now to that, I'm going to add some capers. And we'll be all ready for a lovely dish that we can put on, well, let me show you. It's great on cold meats. For instance, some cold chicken. Tonata! Tonata! It's very versatile stuff. There we are. Tuna mayonnaise. There we go. All right, I'll put that in front of you. It's very common. Remember, he said he served it on veal. You can also serve it on pork piccata, or on pork veal cooked in a similar way. A delicious dish. And let me show you one more. If you take some hard-boiled eggs, let's make a little quick bed of lettuce here for them. If you put some hard-boiled eggs in a platter, you can make something called eggs tonata. There we are. The egg is simply served, cut in half, hard-boiled egg, whoops, lay down yolk. This is a marvelous antipasto. You know what antipasto is? It means before the pasta. That's what it means. And pasta is very common in Italy. It has been for a long time. They want to serve a pasta dish before the main course. It isn't, you don't eat pasta in Italy. You have pasta before you have other things, you see. So you serve hors d'oeuvres before the pasta, and you call it something like antipasta. Or beforehand, you see, before the pasta. Put a little tuna sauce in the center, and we have eggs tunata. Isn't that gorgeous? It's a lovely dish, and common again in the northern regions. Now, Italian cooking has all kinds of possibilities, and I found a place in San Francisco called the Little City, and this gal is so clever. Let me show you what she does. On her menu for appetizers, or antipasti, before the pasta, she makes something that she calls a spaghetti frittata. This is the strangest thing, but it's in good Italian tradition because she's being very clever and she's creating good things. I'll show you what she does. She mixes up a handful of pasta. I'm going to use spaghetti. She's using a spaghettini, you see, thin spaghetti. See? And I'm going to just guess at her recipe. And I'm pretty close to what she does. I'm going to suggest an egg into the bowl. The spaghetti's cold, of course. And we don't need any garlic, but we do need some salt and pepper. Lots of pepper, I think. And a bit of basil and oregano. There we are. There's the pepper. And I want some basil and oregano. Just a pinch or two. We don't want this to be too heavy. And then she adds lots of cheese. Let's just mix this up. Good Lord, with his fingers. Yes, that's just right. putting a handful of pasta here. Oh, about like so. Whoops. Everything's connected with everything. There it goes. And we'll mix that up well. Let's throw in some cheese. I've freshly grated my cheese, of course. I don't believe in, I did that just before you came. I don't believe in letting someone else do it. The flavor goes right away, you know. It really does. It's just not worth it to buy that ground up cardboard stuff. All right, a handful of cheese. Mix that up properly. I have a small size frying pan here, and I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil into that. And we'll brown the pasta on the bottom. That's what a frittata is. And then it goes, whoops, that's a little too much. Don't use that much olive oil. There you go. Or you'll kill yourself. You don't want to do that. Now, I have in my pan then 1 egg whipped up, a little bit of salt and pepper, a bit of oregano, basilico or basil, and some cheese. And I'm going to place that in a pan and brown it on the bottom. Here it's sizzling away. It's doing great. And then, after it's brown on the bottom, won't take long, after it's brown on the bottom, I'm going to put the rascal underneath a broiler. That's the difference between a normal omelet, and this is the ancestor of that sort of thing, and a frittata. A frittata is different from the French omelet in that you put the frittata under a broiler after you brown the bottom. The French omelet, you remember, you fold over. So she's made a dish out of a spaghetti with egg, you see, and calling it frittata, because now we're going to put some more cheese in the top. Thusly, and we're going to put this rascal under a broiler until it's toasty brown. I've already prepared one. Let me show you. Put this one in the oven. Wow, don't have room in that oven. We'll just leave it sit here. But here's one that I've already prepared for you, and I think it's a kick. There you are. It looks a little dry to you. No, it's not dry at all. It's delicious. Let me set this down with some parsley. I think we need some garnish. Look at the pile of good things and we haven't put a bit of tomato sauce anywhere. These are all typical northern dishes, and I think they're just lovely. There, do you want some more? Let me give you some more. When we consider the history of Italy, we have to remember that in the early times, in Roman times, they had a much more sophisticated diet than we thought. Let me read you what we found in Pompeii, which is south of Rome. Do you remember there was a great explosion? What was it, 79 AD, something like that? I'll give you the date on this. Yes, Pompeii blew up in 79 AD. And as you wander into Pompeii, still you can go and see this. You can go into a bakery shop, and here is the baker, and furthermore he has several loaves of bread, and we can tell what kind of things he was cooking. Incredible place. We found marvelous lentils and barley. We found figs and oil and wine and bread. They did very well in Pompeii. And we can guess from that what was going on in Rome. Very much the same sort of thing. But the man we want to fall back on is good old Apicius, who wrote the very first cookbook for us in the 1st century. And you can buy a copy of that in paperback. I think it's put out by Dover Press or somebody. But you can buy one in a good bookstore. Sit down and read it, but the recipes are very, very strange. He talks about one little tiny paragraph, you see, will give you a recipe to cook an entire pig. And it's very complicated if you don't know cooking history. So be careful with it, but there will also be some footnotes, and you can throw a big Roman party some night and just have a bash by using the cookbook, the very first one in history, now in paperback, written by Apicius, A-P-I-C-I-U-S, written in the very 1st century. And you know what? We're not sure he even existed. We do know that a group of characters got together to eat constantly during these marvelous Roman times when there was no tomato sauce. Remember that. No tomato sauce. It hadn't gotten there yet, you see. These fellows all got together and they shared recipes back and forth. And somebody sat down and wrote them all down, and they attributed them to one of the great eaters. But it's not likely that he had anything to do with the cookbook. Isn't that fascinating? I love it. I love it. Now, let me show you one more. I have some marvelous polenta. This is a dish that we brought to Italy. It's cornmeal mush, the kind of thing that my grandmother fed to my father for so long that about, I don't know how many years ago, 20 years ago, my dad got up one morning and he said, I can't stand it any longer. I have not had fried cornmeal mush for 20 years, and he made me fried cornmeal mush. It took us about 2 days to cook it down, but in Italy, cornmeal mush has been very, very popular, and it is called polenta. Polenta, and it is served, what is the bowl? Here they are. It is served as a starch alongside of, in the north. It is served alongside of a normal meat dish, you see. You put gravy on this. Isn't that rich and beautiful? Polenta is much finer than our cornmeal. I'll show you the grain. Our cornmeal is much coarser than this. But in Italy, they grind it very fine. It's almost like a coarse flour, you see? See how fine that is? And it cooks up beautifully. So now we have polenta. And I have one more thing for us to complete our northern Italian meal today, cooking Italian history, by offering you an ice, a sherbet, an ice from Italy. I made one from wine and lemon juice. That's it, a little bit of sugar and some lemon peel. There it is. If you don't know what this gadget is, I know it looks strange to you, but this refrigerator makes ice cream by itself. It's the strangest thing. I love it. And I've tried to make a beautiful lemon ice for you today, and I think you'll enjoy it. It's a very good dish and very, very simple to make. Simply a little bit of sugar water and some wine or champagne. I use cheap white wine. I don't go into champagne routine. And some lemon peel as well as a lot of fresh lemon juice. We have a classic, absolutely classic northern Italian meal, imitating a few things. For instance, we use pork instead of veal because it's too expensive. But we have before us a classic meal from the northern regions, and we have not used tomato paste in any way, shape, or form. First of all, I prepared for you today a pork piccata. Flour the pork, brown it quickly, throw a little bit of garlic into the pan with your olive oil, salt and pepper the meat, then throw in a little bit of wine, lemon juice, remove the meat from the pan, reduce the sauce with a few capers, and then pour the meat back over the sauce, shake it into the pan, it's thickened up, you see, put it on your plate, and just go crazy. It's absolutely marvelous. I've also prepared a pasta dish for you from my Aunt Susie in Brooklyn, typical of Italian cooking, mixing beans or peas or legumes, you see, with pasta. This is called peas and pasta, easy to make. I prepared a tuna sauce for you, which is a can of tuna fish, 3/4 of a cup of olive oil, 1/4 of a cup of lemon juice, and 8 anchovies. Not in that order. Remember, add everything else before you put in the olive oil. Whip it up, pour the olive oil in slowly so that it thickens and turns to a mayonnaise. And I've used that same dish, tonata, on eggs, so that we have an egg tonata, you see? Lovely thing. And then we've prepared some cornmeal mush, high-class style, and it's called polenta. We have a spaghetti frittata, and finally, a bit of lemon ice. And with that, a champagne ice, you see. And with that, we can celebrate Italian history. Next time you go into an Italian restaurant, try and figure out which region they're from. You see, if they were from Venice, where Marco Polo had gone, they didn't know about pasta until rather late. If they were from the northern regions, they probably didn't eat much tomato sauce. If they were from the south, they probably ate a great deal of tomato sauce. But in any case, you must understand that there's no such thing as a single Italian kitchen. There are many cultures in Italy, and they all cook beautifully. I'm glad we could be together today. Until we feed each other again, this is the Frugal Gourmet. I bid you peace. Bye-bye.